Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into a really interesting bit of guitar gear. It tackles something guitarists are always chasing, right? How do you get that huge, long sustain?
Without losing the punch, yeah.
Exactly, without losing that initial pick attack clarity. And our sources, manuals, forums, retailer stuff, they all seem to point towards one pedal, the MXR M132 Super Comp.
Right, and it's a great case study, actually. You've got this legendary brand, MXR, looking at one of their own iconic sockets, the Dynacomp.
The M102.
The M102, yeah. And they're basically saying, okay, this is great, but how can we make it work better for, modern players?
Yeah.
So the M132 Super Comp is their answer. It's built right on that Dynacomp foundation.
Okay, so it's not just a reissue. What's the super part about? What are they actually promising here that the original couldn't quite deliver?
Well, the big promise is flexibility. MXR says it's about giving you everything from tight, snappy, clean tones.
Like for funk or rhythm playing.
Exactly. All the way through to those soaring lead tones with tons of sustain. But the key thing they're trying to solve is how to keep that initial note, that transient sound.
The pick hitting the string.
Yeah, the click or pop. How do you keep that clear while also getting the heavy compression you need for sustain? And importantly, they designed it to handle hotter pickups too, the high output ones that can sometimes, overwhelm older compressor designs.
Right. That makes sense. So it's an evolution. To understand the evolution, we kind of need to start with the basics. What parts of the Super Comp are straight out of that classic MXR playbook? The Dynacomp DNA, if you will.
Okay, yeah. So there are two main controls that are pure classic MXR, basically straight off the Dynacomp. First one is OUTET.
Okay.
Simple enough. Compression squashes your signal, makes it quieter overall. Output is just the makeup game. You use it to bring the volume back up to where it was, or even boost it higher if you want to push your amp.
Standard level compensation. Got it.
Exactly. Then the second classic control is sensitivity. This is really the heart of the compression effect itself.
How much squash?
Pretty much, yeah. It controls the amount of compression. Think of it like setting a threshold. The higher you turn the sensitivity, the more the pedal clamps down on your signal, reducing the dynamic range.
Okay, basic compression controls. Now let's layer in some of the specs here, because you mentioned it's powerful. What do the numbers tell us about how this thing actually behaves?
Yeah, the specs are revealing. This pedal can deliver a lot of compression up to 36 decibels. That's a huge amount of squish.
36 dB, wow.
It is. But here's the really crucial bit for understanding the Dynacomp sound it inherits. The timing. The attack time is super fast, like around 5 milliseconds.
5 milliseconds. Okay, in musical terms, that's almost nothing. It's instantaneous, practically.
It really is. And that speed is the classic thing. The compressor grabs the signal so fast, it clamps down before your pick attack is fully developed.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to that classic squashed attack sound we talked about. But then, the release time, how long it holds onto the compression, is quite long, about 1 second. And that's what gives you that famous sustain. The core design really prioritizes sustain, even if it meant losing some initial clarity traditionally.
Right. Right. And quickly, the practical stuff. Power, bypass, modern pedal board friendly.
Oh yeah, very much so. Standard 9-volt battery or adapter. And the power draw is tiny, only about 3.3 milliamps.
Oh, wow, that's low.
Super low, great for daisy chains or limited power supplies. And for the tone purist, it's got true hardwire bypass. So when it's off, your signal passes straight through, completely untouched, no tone suck.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got the classic foundation, massive compression potential, but also that inherent issue with the super fast attack time squashing the transient. Which brings us neatly to the main event, right? The attack level control. Is this the magic bullet? Does it actually solve that sustain versus clarity problem?
This is really the justification for the Super Comp. For years, like we said, compression off felt like a trade-off. You get sustain or you get clear attack. This attack level knob is the key thing that MXR added to try and bridge that gap.
How's it different from just, turning the sensitivity down? If I want less squash, I just turn down sensitivity, right?
Well, yes, but turning down sensitivity reduces the overall compression effect. The attack level control is much more specific. It targets that initial moment of the note. Remember the 5 millisecond attack time?
Oh, the super fast one.
The attack level knob basically tells the circuit how much to back off during that initial peak. It doesn't change the speed necessarily, but it controls the intensity of the clamp down right at the start.
Okay, so if I turn the attack level knob clockwise towards the maximum setting, what am I hearing?
You're telling pedal, hey, let more of that initial pick sound through. So the compression still kicks in quickly afterwards for sustain, but you're preserving more that initial dynamic punch, that snap. It allows that transient, that clarity, to cut through before the main compression really grabs hold. So you keep the articulation. Think clean country playing, chicken picking, funk rhythm,
Right.
where that percussive attack is absolutely vital.
Right, you need that pop.
Exactly.
And then if I roll it back counterclockwise.
Then you're heading back towards that more traditional vintage compressor sound. You get a softer attack, the note kind of blooms straight into sustain without that initial hard edge. Great for smooth lead lines or that slightly rounded, padded feel.
So it gives you a whole spectrum to play with.
Precisely. It gives you that smart middle ground everyone's looking for. You can dial in clarity and sustain from the same pedal. You don't necessarily need like a separate boost just to bring back the attack that the compressor might have squashed.
It adds that nuance. Definitely seems like more than just one extra knob. So we get the tech side, but how does this play out in the real world? How do players actually view this pedal? Do they agree it's a successful upgrade?
Generally, yeah, the perception seems positive. You look at sites like Equipboard. They frame it clearly as an evolution of the Dynacomp. They highlight that single attack control as making it way more versatile.
Makes sense.
And maybe more down to earth, you see listings on Reverb where sellers often just describe it as like Dynacomp with more knobs.
Yeah.
Which sounds simple, but it tells you people get the core sound is still there, but the extra control is seen as a genuine, useful addition, not just a gimmick.
Okay. And what about the sound itself? Beyond just compression. Sometimes these circuits add their own flavor, right?
Yeah.
Does the Super Comp stay totally clean or does it add some character?
Oh, it definitely can add some character, especially when you push it. I saw a description from Sweetwater praising its ability to, quote, flavor your sound by adding more gain if you choose to.
Ah, interesting. So not just clean squish.
Right. It suggests there's maybe a bit of subtle saturation or harmonic richness that comes in when you drive the sensitivity and output hard. It's not just making things louder or quieter, it's adding a little bit of, edge, which a lot of guitarists actually like from a compressor. Makes the tone feel a bit more alive.
Right. And what about other instruments? Pedals often find uses beyond guitar. Bass players are always hunting for good compression. Does the M132 work for bass?
That's a bit more debated. People have definitely tried it. You see discussions on Talk Bass forums. The feedback's kind of mixed, but interesting.
Okay.
Some bassists find it surprisingly transparent, more so than they expected for a guitar pedal. But there's a consistent warning. If you really crank the sensitivity, push the compression hard.
For that heavy squash?
Yeah. When you do that, the really low frequencies can start to suffer. They might sound thin, maybe even a bit distorted. It's a common issue, really. Guitar compressors are often voiced for mids and highs, and sometimes struggle to handle the huge low-end peaks from a bass cleanly, especially at extreme settings.
Okay, so maybe not the first choice for extreme bass compression. Now, we have to talk about the flip side of getting massive compression, especially that 36 dB figure, noise. You squash the dynamics that much, then add gain. You're going to amplify hiss, right? What are users saying about noise levels?
Yeah, this is probably the single most common heads up you see in user reviews, places like Guitar Center especially. People are pretty clear. Push that sensitivity knob high, go for maximum sustain.
Yeah.
And the pedal can introduce noticeable hiss or background noise. It's particularly noticeable if your guitar has a noisy single coil pickups, or if there are other noisy pedals earlier in your chain.
So it's not necessarily the pedal itself being noisy.
Exactly. It's more that it reveals the noise that's already there. It's just the physics of it, You can't boost the quiet parts of your signal by up to 3060 dB without also boosting the inherent noise floor of your whole setup by the same amount.
That makes total sense. It's like turning up a microphone really loud. You start hearing everything in the room. The pedal has huge compression power, but the cost is it puts your existing noise floor under a microscope.
Perfectly put, yeah. The noise isn't generated by the M132 circuit in isolation, but it gets amplified by it when you push the compression hard.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. The M132 Super Comp. It feels like a genuinely successful update. That attack level control seems to be the key, letting players really dial in that balance between sustain and clarity in a way the original couldn't. Makes it useful across way more styles.
I think that's fair, yeah. And that brings us to a final thought, kind of a provocation, tying together the specs and that user feedback about noise.
Okay.
We've got this huge technical potential, right? 36 dBs of compression.
Right.
But we also have players warning about hiss when you try to use all of it.
Right. And the specs themselves say the pedal's quiet.
Exactly. The official noise floor spec is Nacketing 95 dBV, which is really good. It means the pedal on its own, sitting there, isn't noisy.
So the paradox
is, when you dial in that massive 36 dB of compression using the sensitivity, and then use the output knob to bring your overall volume back up, you're effectively applying 36 dBs of gain to everything coming into the pedal.
including any hum or hiss from your guitar, your cables, other pedals.
Precisely. So the big question it raises isn't, is the M132 noisy? But rather, how quiet is your rig before it hits the M132? What does that trade-off really mean for you, the player, as you're putting together your signal chain?
If you've got a bunch of noisy vintage fuzz pedals before it, cranking the super comp might reveal a noise floor that makes it unusable, even if the compression itself sounds great.
Could be. Or if you have a super clean setup, maybe you can push it harder. It forces you to think about gain staging and noise across your whole board.
So using the super comp effectively, especially at higher settings, really depends on managing the noise profile of everything else. Something to definitely keep in mind before you just dime that sensitivity knob.
Absolutely. It's something for you to explore. How much of that 36 dB can your specific setup handle cleanly? It's a great pedal, but that interaction is key.
A fascinating intersection of specs and real-world use. That's all the time we have for this deep dive on the MXR M132 Super Comp. Thanks for joining us.